This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Let's go to line number one. Sheila O'Leary, the NDP MHA for St. John's East. Kitty Vitty, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for taking my call.
You're more than welcome.
Listen, a lot of stuff to chew on there. And before I get into what I really was calling about, because I'm talking about winter coming. I'm at the tail end of Game of Thrones here, and winter is coming, and we can feel it with the dampness of the cold and the fog and everything. Right?
I got to be honest, Sheila. It's hard. We have to talk about it, but boy, oh boy, it's like by-elections. I'd rather not to even think about it right now in the middle of summer, but we have to. So go for it.
No, I know. We're trying to squeeze what we can out of summer, but you know the adage that after Regatta Day, it all goes south. But anyway, regardless, this is about leadership and about preparation for what's coming. And we do know that we are a winter province, and a lot of people really struggle to afford staying warm in their homes. And we've been a long time, the NDP, asking government to consider removing the HST from all forms of home heating, electricity, oil, firewood, all of it. And winter is going to come soon enough, and we need to be prepared for it. And look, we field so many calls. I get so many calls from seniors who are really struggling to afford, their rent and all kinds of things. But heating itself, when people are kind of cuddled into one room in their apartment or in their home in order to ensure that they have the heat that they need, it's just unacceptable. So government needs to be active rather than passive on this issue, right? We need to try to see if we can give people a break while all this resource talk is going on. You alluded to it earlier there about walking and chewing gum at the same time, Brian. It's absolutely, and I say this over and over again, like, why are we just a one-trick pony when we have such vast resource in this province, right?
Absolutely. That's where I went. That's why I actually used that term on Monday, one-trick pony. I mean, look, obviously, we're on bust for resources, for potential, but right now, what we're focused on is Churchill MOU. But there's no indication, even if we are really looking at other things. But yes, right now, it really looks like that's our bag. That's what we're focused on. Everything else on pause.
Well, you know what, and we know the cost of doing this, to remove the HST from the heating, which would really give people a break while all these negotiations for whatever deals are coming down the pipe.
Sheila,
would really give people a break.
I'm just wondering what you thought of the finance minister did mention, I think last week, these affordability measures that could be coming, maybe, possibly, in the fall. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more information or detail about what that might entail. Could it? Are you holding out hope that could be an HST move?
Well, who knows? Again,
exactly.
and like you were referencing there about the Atlantic MOU, I mean, you got to be at the table. I don't understand why this government has chosen not to be or not invited. I don't understand why.
No, none of us do.
We have to look at. We need to look at every possible option here. We need to look at yesterday. Okay, for an example, we met with solar energy providers that are happening in our community that are helping people defray the cost that they pay on their power bills. We're talking with certainly all kinds of different people with various opinions regarding the Churchill Falls MOU. We had an excellent meeting with Greg Roberts, who's been very vocal, certainly about his concern. We're trying to have conversations at the NDP. We are having conversations with everybody and anybody that we can have in the resource development area. Because again, we shouldn't be a one-trick pony. That is the downfall that our history has provided for us. We've always looked for that saving one energy thing. Now it's going to be Beta Nord. Okay, so well, great. I mean, we know that we need to transition out of the oil and gas eventually. But if that happens, is that the only thing that we're going to look at? We need to prepare ourselves for electrification. We've had a meeting with the Minister, Chris Tibbs, certainly in conservation, environment, and climate action, and because, the government needs to come up with a climate action plan. And so we've got all kinds of ideas that we certainly are putting forward about different ways that we can try to address those issues. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be one or the other. We have so many resources at our fingertips, and the fishery is one. We have mining. We have possible wind energy, solar energy. There's just so many things that we can delve into, and we need to be in the conversation all the time. This passivity, this passive rather than active approach with the government right now is very concerning. And the lack of transparency, the lack of communication is extremely concerning. And meanwhile, we're fielding calls from people who can't afford their rent, can't afford to continue in their homes, and winter is coming. We know that the heating issue is going to be an issue again. We're going to be flooded with calls and emails about people who can't afford to heat their homes. So, these are all interrelated conversations. But we need to be talking with everybody, and we need to be at the table.
A cost of living is hand in hand, because people may, the finance minister or others may say, there's affordability measures coming in the fall when it's already getting colder. Whereas that's an affordability issue, just like back to school for your 2 or 3 kids. When you're running on whether or not you're on a single income, whether or not you're on an income that hasn't seen a raise in years. We just got our 2.25% increase on the rates on electricity. All of that's happening, and to say that, okay, we'll have those to announce in the fall, I just suggested last week, why not announce something now? Why announce that you're going to announce something? It's the most politically waste of time and bafflegab that I've ever heard in politics. And look, let's be clear, I've been in this business, as you know, Sheila, for 30, 35 years.
Yep.
This is the most tightly controlled messaging from a provincial government I've ever experienced. Even when, you had communication staff with other governments and that sort of thing, we always kind of knew where things were, and you knew what might be coming. I get it. The negotiations around Churchill Falls are sensitive. They seem to be at a very critical point. So, I don't expect negotiations in public, but at least can you not talk about other things while we're doing that, and at least explain what's the rationale? What are we thinking about? What are we doing? As long as it doesn't into commercial sensitivities and all that kind of stuff, which is a great fallback sometimes for government.
Well, look, my leader, Jim Dinn, and I are meeting and talking about a number of different issues, in terms of NDP policy, the ones that we put forward in our platform for, when the election was there. We're still hammering away on these issues. And, look, the 2.25% was a good first step. But you know what? The reality is that it still means the bills would be more or less the same. We're still functioning on a kind of a status quo kind of thing where we're not really giving people a break. And this interim period in between is an opportunity. There's an opportunity to give people a break, have the discussions, get out there. We can do it all. Can't we do it all? Can't we meet with a number of different people and see about how we can support a number of different resource industries so that we can be more sustainable as a province? It's been our downfall historically. And you know what? Look, and the same thing, the Liberals could have refused to make this change on the HST, So the PCs do have an opportunity right here and now to make a difference. And look, while these larger issues are looming over people in our province, I'm, of course, the representative for St. John's East Kitty Vitty. And you know what? A number of issues that are happening there are about heritage and historic buildings and conservation. I've been reaching out to the Minister of Tourism, Culture, Arts and Recreation. I've sent an email and a request to have a meeting with a great opportunity that could really help in the cultural sector. And I haven't heard a response. So, this is extremely frustrating when we reach out to government to have these conversations. We're trying to collaborate. We're trying to bring solutions and ideas forward. And that's what we're doing at the NDP. But crickets. We're not hearing anything in return.
And I echo the crickets. It's just silence is deafening. I'm not. I don't think I'm asking for a lot. I think the Open Line is an established, medium in this province to make sure the most people get to hear you. And you would think that the Premier would at least be available for 10 minutes in the past 3.5 months, but not yet. And so we asked again this morning. I'd love to have a chat. At least to get these.
Well, I look forward to hearing him. I look forward to hearing him on your show and having a conversation with you, Brian, because you're having the conversation. You're putting out the issues. These are the things that we're all thinking about. Yeah. But we're not hearing. We're not hearing from our leadership.
And Sheila,
right?
In fairness, I welcome a conflicting or a challenge of what I'm saying. Or even to correct me if they want. I mean, look, I'm just putting out there what it seems to be very clear to a lot of us, that there are things happening that a lot of people have a lot of questions about. And where's our government? Where's our leader? What I'm not saying he's not leading just because he's not being on Open Line, but it would help because people need to hear some frank conversation as opposed to scripted one-line answers.
And on Open Line, we're talking to the people of the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. We're having the conversations with the people who are on the ground, and that is a great opportunity. That's why the show is so fantastic, because it enables anybody, to have a conversation about things that are impacting people in the province. So I thank you for that, having that conversation, creating a forum so that we can have that dialogue. And again, you know what? I'm here to just ask those questions, ask the hard questions. I'm trying to meet with people in the community to try to find out the best possible ways forward. I know Jim Dinn is doing the exact same thing. We're frantically out there meeting people in community, trying to collect all the information that we can so that we can present and represent the people of the province. And you know what? I certainly hope that our Premier is going to show up.
Thanks, Sheila. Last thing before you go, you mentioned heritage buildings and a lot of those issues in your particular district, being the older heritage sort of district in the province, and of course, I shouldn't say the province, in the city. I'm just wondering, any word on Memorial Stadium? What are you hearing?
No, I haven't heard a peep. I actually had a meeting with Mayor Danny Breen there only, I think it was last week or the week before, just to get an introductory meeting because obviously we cross over a number of different issues. Myself and Councillor Brenda Halley, we certainly are in consult on a regular basis because we share almost exclusively a district, and we want to have that information exchange, but still nothing. I haven't heard anything yet on that. I have concerns certainly about the SO Steel building, number of heritage properties, and actually I'm actually meeting with Heritage NL today to have a discussion because I've brought up in the legislature previously about the outdated Historic Resources Act, and I want to find out more information and continue to educate myself on how we can make improvements. Right? Fantastic. Thanks, Sheila. I appreciate the call. Okay, you take care, Brian. Thanks for having me.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's see, line number 1, and Mike, you're on the air.
Yes, I'm calling about the Rockjaw report. Is it ever going to be released?
Success. I mean, the Liberals wouldn't release it, and right now, it's still, I believe, access to information request after ATIPA request still has been denied. I mean, it was always pointed to commercial sensitivity and cabinet confidence. Cost us almost $6 million to review all our assets and to see if any of them are worth selling off. And it had a lot to do with a lot of people. And so in the interest of transparency and openness, this one falls right into that category, Mike.
Yeah, well, like I said, the former Premier Fiore went away with a lot of information. The man started as a surgeon. He became a politician. Then he worked for a consulting firm or with the gold mine. Now he's got a big job with the Bank of Canada. So at the end of the day, we, the people of Newfoundland, deserve to be treated and respected better than we are.
Agreed. I will say this: Premier Tony Wakeham in the past, I think back in March, I think it was, he even doubts that the report even existed, that it was probably just shorthand. It was might have been notes, it might have been some kind of drafts. that there wasn't actually a full report to be out there. So, he's even claimed that he's refusing to release it. Well, obviously, he pointed out that the former premier refused to release it. But they even doubt that there's an existence of such report. I mean, any great detail.
Well, like I say, for $6 million, I don't know. If I paid someone $6 million to do a report, there has to be something in there. And like I said, a lot of things go down. And the people in Newfoundland, we're steady getting run over, and we scream and yell, and then after 2 weeks, it all goes away. For whatever reason, people get sick or beat soft or whatever we want to call it.
It's the dynamic of the news cycle, Mike. It's why people announce bad news on a Friday afternoon. They're hoping that the weekend will wash it all away, and then you come back and other news has come up on the weekend, and it might supplant it or knock it down the list a little bit. And the closer you get to Monday morning, even more things have either gotten on your mind personally or professionally or in the news, and it washes away. I remember former Premier Williams saying during the breast cancer screening scandals back in the early 2000s that, he talked about the fact that Eastern Health at the time released a lot of the news on late on a Friday afternoon involving patients who may or may not have been misdiagnosed for breast cancer and dropped it on the media and everybody and the public on a Friday afternoon. He said, quote unquote, they ought to be shot over there. Well, the term itself at the time shocked a lot of people, but we know what he was saying, and it was this kind of release of information. And the way it can fall off the radar is what happens, Mike, I think is what you're referring to.
Yes, and exactly, that's how it works. All you got to do is watch the American news, and every day there's a different story that contradicts the other story. Man, it confuses everybody. You know what he said? It don't matter, but it do matter. The people in this province need to start standing up for the rights and putting it out there, and don't give up after 2 weeks. Keep it going. It's me today, someone else jump in tomorrow, and at the end of the day, we try to make this province. We got a province here with all kinds of resources, and I don't know how to explain it, but everything that we got here, we got very little to show for it.
And it's interesting with the Rothschild because that was designed with efficiencies in mind, right? Trying to reduce the debt burden on government, trying to reduce all the operational government and whatever it was, whether it was our infrastructure, assets, actual physical assets, trying to find a way to reduce costs for government expenses, get more efficient. And that seems to be the bent of this government as well. I could see them wanting to have a look at the Rothschild. I mean, if it was worth $6 million, we should all have a look at it. But Mike, I'm right at the bottom of the half. Do you want to wrap up? I'll give you a minute there.
No, thank you very much for your time. And like I said, we as a province and the people of this province need to speak up and continue speaking up.
Sure.
Anyway, thank you for your time and have a good day.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's go right to the line. Line number 2, and Nancy, you're on the air.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. How about you?
Good. I just wanted to chime in to what you and Sheila O'Leary were talking about earlier.
Sure.
I thought it was just myself and one other person sort of having a little chat saying, reach anybody, nobody's getting back to us, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it seems now that you've confirmed that it's bigger than that. I'm with the local service district in my community.
Mm-hmm.
And
which community is that, Nancy, if you don't mind me asking?
Greens Harbor.
Gotcha. Okay.
And myself and a past chair, we were talking about the fact that, in the past you could email the MHA, and within a pretty short amount of time, she would either have the answer or connect you with the appropriate person at the department to help you. And fairly quickly you could get some response, if not a resolution.
Sure.
I've got a business owner here in the community who deals with, government contracts and labor laws and apprenticeship programs, that sort of stuff. And she said they've lost track of how many emails and calls they've made, but zero response. Now, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. The Transportation and Infrastructure did return a call after I emailed about an available grant for brush clearing. But generally speaking, there's no response. And that's the thing we were talking about. It's not that there's no advice or help.
It's just not getting any kind of return email.
Nothing. They never answer the phone. You leave a voicemail, and there's no reply, and there's never any response. We had a crazy amount of damage done here in the community by the snowplow last winter.
Oh.
I mean, every winter there's some damage. But this was, I think it's the first time the guy was ever on a plow. I don't know, because there's at least 3 properties here in the community that the roadside is dug out so badly they can't access their driveway.
Like a slip of the blade or something, or just...
Gouge, not a slip, gouge.
Well, yeah, slip could cause a gouge, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
But it's all over the place. It's not like a one-time thing. Oh. There's 3 properties that can't access their property. They can't go. There's a literal ditch, and then of course with heavy rain that became a washout.
So how long ago did that happen, Nancy? Just to be clear, when roughly over the winter was it?
Yeah, so it was in the winter that the damage was done.
Okay.
And a lot of it, he saw these piled up dirty snowbanks, but that's not unusual. So you kind of go, okay, we'll wait now to see if the ice underneath the dirt melts, you know? But it wasn't. It was dirt, like whole shoulders of road piled up in a pile. And I called Sherry Gammon-Walsh, that's our MHA, and she sent an email to the appropriate department, CC'd me on it. That's well over 2 months ago now. And
there's been no movement or response in any way?
Nothing.
Yeah. And I don't want to...
She came...
Yeah, go ahead, Nancy. Sorry.
I was going to say, she came and looked at all the spots that I took her to and took pictures and sent to them so they can see. They don't need to even send anybody out to assess. They can see the damages, and there's been no response. And then about a month ago, I sent an email in about, and that might be a topic to open up publicly too, about land grants and ownership and so on. Like in small communities, what people consider family land may not actually be family land. And I went onto the land use map, and within the small area that I know well in my community, there are grants that are not showing up, old grants, you know. There are grants not showing up, and it's like they haven't made up their mind which is going on there, the grants or the deeds. And so it's like you don't know, it's not updated or something. It's not correct information. So I put in an email to ask if somebody could explain if I'm looking at it incorrectly, or, you know, let them know that this information is not correct. And that we need to have, in a public meeting here, somebody to come out and explain process, because there's going to be a whole lot of issues when some of these people try to sell their property.
Well, communication, now that obviously those title and deeds and ownerships and crown lands and all those issues a little bit tanglier, so I can appreciate that, you know, there's probably some machinations going on behind the scenes to define, you know, who exactly can answer to this, and that's a bit more complicated. The issue of the damage to the property, your MHA making correspondence representation on your behalf and no response. I don't want to pretend for a moment here, and I make this clear all the time, that previous governments have been much better. Look, we've all dealt with them as journalists, and, you know, dealing with people who are trying to deal with government over the years. You know, it can always be a tangly, tardy process, getting someone to respond to an email, especially when you send it directly to a minister. That said, I continue to get emails telling me that Leela Evans is probably one of the most responsive ministers in the history of the legislature, because despite everything she has going on with the 6 or 7 portfolios, plus her, you know, the health issues sources that she's been very public about. She gets back to you, and it's not her staff. Many times it's herself sending a note, and her staff as well. But I'm led to believe that it's, the minister, I had her on late last week, said yes, she responded to a couple of emails herself. So she's doing it. It can be done. So it's always been a problem with government. But as I said earlier today, I will say that it's been a problem with all governments. But it's definitely more difficult to squeeze any information out of this government than past governments that I've dealt with.
It's a much bigger problem than myself and the past chair have ever dealt with. Just no communication whatsoever. So I just wanted to kind of come on and say, it's definitely been noticed. It's not just Sheila, and it's not just me, apparently. Yeah. It is a problem, and you have no recourse because they don't answer the phone, they don't answer the email. What else? How else do you get a hold of them?
Well, and ask the people in Cartwright, since the school was put on pause, and the new school, and Steve Mill Crossing, where the building there was put on, they all complain about, the lack of communication and transparency on these things. So, again, I don't want to, I'll just say, as time goes on, we have short memories sometimes of how things were in a previous government, because it's easy to be more angry in the moment with an issue that's currently on the plate. But again, it's always been an issue, but it feels worse this time. It feels like everything is vetted to a really clean extent, and sometimes it just feels like it's not being vetted locally. We know that the federal party and staff had a lot to do with the election of this current progressive conservative government. Yep. And I still wonder how much of a hand they, who's got the most control over what happens with this provincial government? Are the guys on the ground here, or is it the larger Conservative Party up along? I don't know. I asked the question.
That's my concern too.
Okay, and I get it from other people.
Because some of the rhetoric has a little bit of an edge to it that it didn't used to have.
Yeah, and I have no, nothing to say it does. I get the same feeling, and I get the same feeling from other people. So, Nancy, I got to get off the break, but I appreciate this. I've got another.
I just wanted to say, I just wanted to let Sheila know too that it's not a singular thing. It's everybody's noticing.
And especially as, a local in LSD like yourself, where you need some kind of responsive, you're not playing with the big boys, so you need to be able to get some kind of indication if they're even getting your messages, let alone acting on them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just a quick, hey, I'll look into it.
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
You got it.
That was it. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Nancy. Appreciate the call. Don't be a stranger. Thanks again.
Okay. Bye.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines. And line number 2, John, you're on the air.
Hi. This seems to be an O'Leary kind of morning, doesn't it?
An O'Leary kind of morning?
Yeah, we'll all join in the chorus of Danny Boy, and we'll all feel at home.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, no, appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyway, the reason I was calling, your friend ahead of the game was that just being such a sporty weekend, I was thinking about sporty summer. I was thinking about all the curious expressions we come up with or came down to us, and they even went through a couple of them with Sheila about one-step ponies and
one-trick pony and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was thinking in baseball terms, where does the expression come in from the bullpen? Where'd that come from?
Actually, the term bullpen?
Yeah.
Like where the guys, this is funny because I was having a conversation the other day about where the 19th hole comes from on the golf course, and that's another story altogether. But basically, look, it goes back to like the roped off or the closed off or restricted area. From that I think it was back around the smoking days, and it was a slang for a roped off area, or like the area where fans a fan enclosure, if you will, way back to the late 1800s. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I just remember it having something to do with I'm not sure where the term bull comes in, but this is a good one to garner a little bit of chatter on the airways, that's for sure. But it goes back to that, like a pen or an area of relief for pitchers to warm up. But it goes back to the late 80s, or late 1980s or 1880s. For a roped off area, but the actual bull part I thought might have something to do with the actual animal, but apparently not. I mean, it's just, and you can, any day these days, you can just Google it up and AI it and that kind of thing. But
every ballpark has a bullpen.
Yeah.
Every normally it could be in the middle, like the Yankees, it could be in the middle of New York, and they got a bullpen.
Sure. And again, the actual bull part of it, I'm open to suggestion on that one. I just know it's...
You know what? The other things bulls are famous for, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the other...
That up too, right?
I have no doubt that it has something to do with that, but probably. But no, if you do a little AI thing, it'll just tell you it's 19th century slang for a roped-off overflow area for fans.
The other thing I was thinking of in hockey terms, when you have a power play, it's called the odd man advantage, or you're a man short.
Yeah.
I mean, you got all short people out there?
Short being lesser, I guess.
Or all odd ones?
Oh, we could go through them all. I love it. I could talk about this all day. Slam dunks, drop the ball. He's a heavy hitter. Off the schneid. There's one from Dave. Thank you, Dave. Who's calling the shots? Leave it all on the field. On and on and on it goes. I could talk about the idioms or the expressions and slogans all day, and the history of them fascinates me. But yeah, other than that, I don't know what other ones you can come up with. You got any other favorites?
Well, those are the two that came to my mind. I mean, I know there's a whole slew of them,
Yep. Speaking of the
being shots and all this kind of stuff.
Leave it all on the field, and Yogi Berra had the best ones in addition to his one-liners. But relevant right now is the DC Open, the Washington DC tennis tournament. That's kind of a tune-up to the U.S. Open next month. But, you could go with the ball is in your court. And right now, that would be apropos, given that what we're talking about with Churchill Falls MOU, arguably the ball, as the Premier said, is in Quebec's court.
It's and they're all kind of like sporting expressions for the most part.
Yeah.
But you apply like you were talking when you were talking to Sheila, you were talking about taking one step at a time and being whatever, and those were things I've been thinking of for a little while about. We're so much sports and so. And soccer, or football. I know I've been to Britain and seen what goes on at football games. Mm-hmm. If you go and sit in the middle of Tottenham Hotspur's park.
Oh God!
Oh my God! It's like, and it's not even English.
I have a friend that goes a lot of those games, Tottenham Hotspur. Tries to as much as they can overseas, over the pond to catch a good football game. What was I just going to mention? Oh, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, slipped. There it was, gone. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Look, I know I'm over the top with them sometimes, even in my writing and stuff. I'm a sports fanatic. I don't miss much. About cricket is the only thing I haven't been able to get into just because I don't have direct access to watching it on a regular basis. And when I do watch it, I'm fascinated by it, especially the similarities to baseball. But for the most part, I lap it up. If the news, it's either the news or the sports for me, no matter how good or bad it is, a.k.a. the Jays. I'll still watch because the drama, the stuff that goes on beyond just the sport is what gets me. Whether it's the crowd behind home plate and the foolishness and the ridiculousness and the funniness and the different things that go on there, or just, the in-game play and the things that sometimes the commentators don't catch that the viewer is totally shouting at the TV, and how did you miss that?
I know people who yell at the television set when the game is on.
Well, it's funny, right? A lot of broadcasters, just a quick note on that, aren't necessarily watching the screen that we're watching at home, and that's why they'll miss it sometimes. They're right there behind home plate, best seats in the house, and they're watching the game directly, and sometimes they'll miss whether or not the ball caught the umpire in the head. And don't get me started on the lack of concussion protocol in baseball. You see some of the catchers and umpires get one square in.
I worked most of my life in phys ed at Bonn, and I was introduced to some sports. One of them that they don't do anymore is field hockey.
Yep.
I mean, when I started, I knew nothing about field hockey. And it was the game the girls played. But we used to have an annual thing at phys ed where the faculty and staff versus students in field hockey and golf and hockey and soccer and baseball, you name it, we played it. But field hockey was one because I know they had a thing called a dangerous ball.
Yes.
Which meant if the ball, the ball was like a
it's like a baseball, only harder.
Well, I know, because I didn't know anything about it. I just stood around and watched what the hell was going on, and happened to be standing there one day, and this girl happened to hit what was called struck me right in the head.
Oh my God!
I woke up lying on the field, and our department head called me and said, "John, you all right?" And where am I?
I thought you were going to say you got one in the shins, which is the most common injury. But look,
anything above the waist is considered a dangerous ball.
Jeez, and it is a rock. Like it's like a baseball, the same basic size, only there's no real covering on it. So it's just a hard. Oh my God, that's one of the scariest things of that game for me. And the only reason I know a little bit about field hockey is because one of my three sisters played field hockey in the 70s right around the time that the Canada Games were here. And so I used to borrow her field hockey stick. She's going to kill me for this. I think she knew it. And when I couldn't find my baseball, I took the ball too. And I used to use it for baseball. And I think I got in trouble a couple of times that way. But John, listen, I got to get off to the news. I appreciate the call. Thanks. And listen, let's do this again some other time real soon.
Okay. I'll think of a few other strange expressions that I don't understand.
Yes, let's make it a regular feature, and I'll look up some too and get some more history behind them when I got a little bit more time.
Yeah, you keep your loud man advantage.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's go to line number 3, and Pauline, the independent MHA from Mount Pearl Southlands, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you this morning?
I'm socked in with fog, but other than that, can't complain.
There you go.
I can,
there you go.
But it doesn't do any good.
Well, yeah. Well, like you say, nobody cares, nobody listens, right? That's what I always say.
Yeah, you would know that as an independent MHA sometimes, more than most maybe.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yep.
Yeah. So Brian, you guys called my office this morning, and you were wanting to chat about traffic congestion in Southlands, as I understand it.
Yeah. Well, I heard Councillor Earl speaking the other day to this. We know that there's been. I don't know what you want to call it, a tete-a-tete, if you will, between the developers of Southlands and Galway. Whether the developer is 3000, or of course Danny Williams, developer from Galway, but we know that they've been in the news over this, and it's come before council a few times. And I heard Councillor Earl raising some concerns about traffic and the one route in, one route out from all of those areas, and the unfinished, if you will, connection of Southlands Boulevard, of course, which is in St. John's, and Fairview Investments being the other developer, of course, for Southlands. So I'm just wondering to what extent you have any idea if this road is on the books, if you've heard anything, if the connection, if they've managed to get over themselves and we can get this done or not.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. This has been an issue that has been ongoing, for as long as I've been the MHA for that area, for Mount Pearl Southlands. Yeah. And, it started out, I think, in my first year elected in the area, or maybe the second year, and people will be reaching out. And even though it is a municipal road, it's not a provincial one, I would try to be helpful and to try to get some information for people. So, over the years, I've reached out to whether it be the ward councillor of the day or the city engineer and so on, trying to get updates and so on. And it went on and on and on. It would start like I talked to the engineer, perhaps they'd say, there is a dispute, but we're hopeful that it'll be resolved now over the spring, and you'll see some activity happening this fall. So, of course, I would tell people that, put it out there, and then the fall would call, nothing would happen. I'd reach out again, say, things didn't work out the way we had hoped. There's still a dispute, so now we're hopeful for the spring. So the spring became the fall became the spring, and 5 or 6 years later, we're still no further ahead. And to the best of my knowledge, I mean, I'm not aware of it being resolved even as of today, to be honest with you. Not that I am aware of. From what I can gather, there still seems to be some sort of dispute, I guess, between the Southland side of the border and the Galway side of the border, and I guess the city is somewhere in the middle trying to bring both sides together and negotiate whatever the case might be. But from what I can gather, unless things have changed, since the last I heard, we still seem to be at a stalemate. And, of course, that is no doubt that is creating a lot of frustration, certainly for people, I can say, in the Southlands area, perhaps more so than Galway.
Not to mention development applications that I've covered at City Council that have been either paused or delayed or rescheduled, or, just paused if nothing else until, they can get this construction schedule and some kind of certainty on connecting it, because, again, that's the problem. With only one route in and out, they're hesitant, obviously, to approve residential development applications and put more in there without that second route, and it seems to be a precondition for it, and it's turning into like a mini Team Guju row, where the province and the city fought over that, and Mount Pearl, and now we've got, it's being held up by two developers. It'd be nice if someone just put the hammer down and said, get it done.
Yeah, and I guess in terms of that would be the role of the City of St. John's. It is within the city. I'm not sure exactly what they have at their disposal in terms of tools they could use, legal or otherwise. Yeah. But it's something that obviously needs to be. It's obviously something that needs to be resolved. Like I said, it is creating a lot of frustration for people in the Southlands area. It does raise the issue of safety concerns. I know a lot of people, especially last year when we had the wildfire threat, and, that really kind of brought the light of, guys, geez, we only got like one way in and out of here, so to speak, if there was an emergency. So that kind of brought it to a head. Yeah. And, of course, we've got additional frustration that's been happening for the last number of months with the close down of the Commonwealth Avenue interchange to do work, related to Team Guju. And, of course, now for the last number of months, we've had even additional frustration. Certainly I'm hearing from residents in the Southlands area in particular on a regular basis, because all the traffic that would normally be, heading to the Goulds, the Southern Shore, and so on via the Commonwealth Avenue exits are all now pouring down Richard Nolan Drive and Ruby Line, and that's created a real nightmare for people living in the Southlands area, trying to get, to work in the morning and home from work in the evening. But thankfully,
speaking of which, that's going to be connected. Yeah. Are we hoping this weekend that roundabout at Commonwealth and Robert E. Howlett?
Yeah, I was talking to staff yesterday with Transportation Infrastructure, and the plan is that that should be open sometime this weekend. Weather depending, and of course, anything can happen. There's always equipment breakdown, and things can happen. But if all things work out the way they should, then the plan is that will be opened sometime this weekend, and that's going to be great news for certainly the people of Southlands, who I represent, people of Mount Pearl, and also people, of course, to the Southern Shore, the Goulds, and so on, that utilize that road to get to and from work, from the East End and so on. So it's going to have a very positive impact, I think, for a lot of people once this is finally done, and it'll certainly it'll take away a lot of the frustration, I know, that's being felt by residents I represent in Southlands in particular.
Yeah, it's the epitome of short-term pain, long-term gain, isn't it? Because we've been waiting, and this is a massive reorganization connecting with the Team Guju and all the way to Pitts. Been a long time coming. Paul, listen, I appreciate you, though, being available just to, at least shed a little light and knowing that it's on your radar to some extent, and somewhat, of course, out of your hands. But look, we look forward in the short term to the roundabout Commonwealth. Hopefully we'll find out before the weekend when it will open on the weekend, just so drivers can be prepared when they do go through there, if they're expecting one thing and they come up upon another,
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's good to get that out there so people are aware. Like I say, it's going to be great news for a lot of people, including the people I represent. And as far as Team Gujo goes, as I said, that's really an issue between two developers and the city of St. John's. But of course, I feel a lot of calls from people in the Southlands area on any number of issues that they may be provincial sometimes they're federal, sometimes they're municipal, and sometimes they're none of the above. But as their representative, I always try to get back to people, and if it's not something that's within my jurisdiction, I try to refer them to the right place, or at least get them the information as best I can, because as an MHA, I think for any area, like, you sort of have that overarching obligation to help people, period. And you shouldn't necessarily always limit it to, well, that's not my responsibility, or that's not my responsibility. If you can help, you try to help regardless what it is, and that's what I've always attempted to do, at least.
Yep, and you're, in my opinion, an enviable situation where, you don't have to kowtow to a leader. You see it, you call it like it is. The political stripe doesn't tar you and doesn't restrict you. And, you call it like it is, Paul, and I think that's why you've had so much success as an independent MHA. So I appreciate the time.
Yep, thank you, Brian. Always a pleasure, and have a great day. And if I'm not talking to you anytime soon, enjoy the rest of your summer.
Yeah, I'll see you in the house.
All right, buddy. All
Thanks.
best.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
So let's go to our next caller on line number 4. And Rick, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you today?
Pretty good, thank you. For midweek.
I'm phoning you from the West Coast. It's beautiful over here. The sun is shining. It's 23 degrees this morning already.
I mentioned that this morning. I said the inadvertently, maybe intentionally, call it the best coast. There's a reason.
Oh yes, we got the best coast of Newfoundland, no doubt about it.
I'd love to be sunning.
Beautiful scene.
I'd love to be sunning in Bowater Park today. I got to be honest, Margaret Bowater.
It would be a beautiful spot. Yeah, I'm here in St. George's, 50 miles away, and I know what Bowater Park is all about.
Calgon, take me away.
Yeah, I got friends in St. John's. Wish you were living here on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about the Prime Minister this morning and about climate change.
Sure.
I think he's doing a good job. When he first got in, he started moving away from the Trudeau era, where you're putting hardships on a lot of Canadians for jobs, trying to stick to the climate change, by the book, which we lost a lot of jobs. We're a small country, and we're only a dot on the map compared to Japan, China, Russia, United States, those big polluters in the world. Mm-hmm. And finally, we're making a move in the right direction.
Yeah, certainly some changes. I mean, obviously, you dismantled the carbon tax, consumer carbon tax on oil and gas pollution caps, and look, it's the ultimate balancing act, isn't it? I mean, he is nothing if not an industrial-driven, economic-driven, but he sees the problems that what he was handed, and where does he go from here? I mean, you're not going to please everyone. If you want to look at the efforts that he's made with the Pathways project, or Alberta's making with that, the carbon capture. I mean, look, you can point to if you're pro climate change, if you want to see more done, you want to see oil and gas eliminated, you want to see the emissions go to zero by 20. I think they're targeting again 2050 now, pushed back. If you want to see all that, you're not going to be happy. And if you want to see it go the other way, and of course Beta Nord on full tilt, then you're not going to be happy either if you're a climate, advocate. So you're not going to please everyone. And add to that the dynamic that we're having with our, friends south of the border. Add to that the need right now, the dwindling supply. We're into reserves for oil and gas, for oil around the world, and all the things that feeds. So we need that. And then the question will be, well, how long are we going to need it? And do we really need another massive project like Beta Nord? Well, he's got a lot on his plate, a lot of people to please. And the electrification is a big one, right?
Yeah, yes, and that's for sure, Brian. And the other thing too, Brian, we should have, the government should be protecting our country more. How climate change and the weather is changing so bad. Mm. I can't understand. We give away billions of dollars to foreign countries every year, and I always said this, that the federal government should buy 10 water bombers and help out the provinces fight these forest fires, because we're destroying billions of dollars in forestry. Wood products and everything. And if we had 10 water bombers distributed, 3 in Western Canada, 4 in Central Canada, and 3 here on east coast of Canada, to help the provincial governments fight these fires. And then we're cutting down on climate change also, because we're cutting down on all these fires and the smoke and whatever, you know what I mean? So that would be a good investment. Like I said, we give away billions of dollars to foreign countries every year. Why don't we look after our own first?
Well, that's the strategy now, isn't it? I mean, it's forced us to look at our own first on every level, even on provincial ways. I mean, we always were very provincially. We have more barriers, arguably, and we have over the years than we did between us and the United States. But we are forced to do it now. We have no choice, and it forced our hand. People will credit President Trump for a lot of things, whether it's nationalism, more unity in Canada, a more together approach, looking at our own supply of everything to supply ourselves with our own supply. The problem is, of course, you can make more money if you export it, and there are shorter-term profits that you're going to see by keeping it in-house. There's no question. If you're restricted, a large international company is going to see that. So there are challenges across the board, and again, whether it's electrification, nuclear energy, you name it, there is so much on the vine. And I agree with you. Obviously, we have to look in-house. We got to start looking after ourselves. Water bombers would be a great start, but it seems like something that wouldn't yield results until a long period of time out. Even though
Brian. Yeah, like I'm saying, with these water bombers, you'd be fighting these fires, and that's the biggest cause of pollution on the face of the earth is having a forest fire.
Yep.
And we would help people in areas where the forestry is ongoing, saving communities, saving houses, and down the road it would pay off in the long term, because every year our weather is getting worse and worse and worse everywhere. Climate change, what I mean? You can see it every year. The destruction on this earth, the flooding, the fires, right around, not only here in Canada, right around the world. It's time for these politicians to stop looking at books and start using common sense.
Whoa, did you say the common sense words? Yeah. It's amazing.
Use common sense, because.
Yep.
Yes, because a lot of these politicians, if they can't read it in a book, they don't know what to do. And I'm a retired gentleman. I'm almost 70 years old. And if you haven't got a bit of common sense, you haven't got nothing.
Yeah, sometimes the stuff that's right in front of our noses is the best solution, but we'd rather, complicate it with red tape and policy, and it gets lost. Yes. It gets lost in government bureaucracy. There's no question, and that's just the process that we've been living with forever and ever and ever. We want a democracy, but we don't want some of the disruption, some of the interruptions and the delays that come with it, because obviously, it's our system, it's the best we got, but there's better out there. And again, if we could remove some of this politico from some of our discussions, I think if we could get over ourselves, some politicians could get over themselves a little better, we might be able to come to some of these better solutions through common sense. Because you know what they say, right?
I got one comment left, Brian, and I discussed it with a friend of mine here in St. George's, David Callahan, a while back.
Yeah.
We should have a People's Party right across Canada, and these people that run for the People's Party be just the common people, not people with 5 years university, all kinds of education, just the common sense people. Let them run the government of Canada for a few years, and I say you see big changes.
Yeah, I would suspect you will, because it's not the book smart people, it's the life experience people.
That's right, and you take all the elder people and the older people. These people have got the experience. They've been through this world for all their life before they pass away, and they gain a lot of knowledge. And a lot of these new people coming into politics, they look at each other and they don't know where to turn. Use common sense. Yeah, there are diamonds in the rough out there who come in with their own minds, their own thoughts, their own agendas, and they know what they want to do, and they know the system or the flaws in the system, as opposed to those who are perfectly happy to come in and do it the way it's always been done. Yes, that's right, Brian. Yep. Well, thank you for your time, Brian. Appreciate it. Have a beautiful day, and I know I'm going to have a beautiful day here.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line. Go to line number 2, and Shelley, who is also responding to Sheila O'Leary's call earlier this morning. Good morning, Shelley. You're on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
How are you?
It seems that Sheila has brought out everybody who was thinking the same thing but didn't say it out loud.
She has a tendency to do that, given her experience over the years.
Yes, she certainly did. Because, since I'm not a PC, I'm not a liberal, I'm not an NDP, I have no preference when it comes to that sort of thing. So it has nothing to do with it being a PC government versus liberal, none of that. But I have to say, since the election, I have heard nothing about the MOU, health care. Like Sheila said, the winter is coming. The price of electricity is going up. There's roads, infrastructure, schools. There's so many major issues in the province. And we don't really know what's going to be done, if there's a plan. There's going to be an announcement, but not the announcement itself. What does that even mean?
That's kind of similar to what the affordability announcement from the finance minister, right? He had a briefing. He was asked, will there be anything else given the, affordability issues that we all have? And stay tuned till the fall. So basically, he announced that there might be something being announced in the fall. So you announce an announcement. That's back to the dark ages of politics for me.
I don't get it. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I don't get it. You come out and you say, well, I know times are tough. Hang in there, guys. We might be doing something, but we're going to announce later if we might be doing something.
That's about sums it up.
That help? Where's the transparency here? Well, what's happening with all the major issues that the low-income people and seniors and everybody really is facing today? Mm-hmm. We don't even know. It's not just the premier either. It's the government. I mean, I'm hearing it from cabinet ministers to the premier himself. Nobody seems to know where this government stands on anything. And I'd like to remind you, Mr. Premier, it was we the people that elected you. And I'd like to know why you can't come on, open line, answer some questions. I think we deserve that.
Yeah, I must say, it would be nice just to have him, the Premier, just to speak to it. Whether or not he can continue to speak in, generalities, vagarisms, I should say, just high level. Because, again, these are speaking points, right? There's nearly no meat on the bone when we get a briefing. So credit to former premiers who would just right off the cuff. But this feels so heavily scripted and heavily controlled. And this is just coming from my experience, which I have a lot. So, anybody can say, well, you're overblown it. I don't know. I haven't got an email saying that. Haven't got any pushback to that. Most people are all agreeing that we'd like a little bit more information. And again, as I said, the sensitivities around negotiations with MOUs, I get all that. But to not at least flesh out where the thinking is on, say, for example, the one right now that's top of mind for me is this new maritime loop. While we have a maritime link, and how we cannot somehow leverage and take advantage of that situation, instead just bypass that, put it on the side burner, not bother with that, and just stick with the Quebec MOU, which again, the government has said they're in no real urgency or rush to take. They can take it or leave it. Again, I've heard that, but again, when you see the Premier Frechette at least say a deal very soon, and our Premier saying, "Oh, wait now, we don't agree with that. Only we're not going to say that much. Basically, we're not going to give you that much detail. We'll leave our side in the dark." Look, everybody just wants some information, communication. It helps the world go round.
Yes, it does, and at least then. Yep. If you come forward and say, this is our stand on something, here's the way we see it, here's what we're thinking, here's what we're planning on doing, at least there's some form of communication. Whereas right now we're all frustrated. We feel like we're in the dark. Yeah, it does accelerate the frustration. Shelley, you're speaking for a lot of people, so did Nancy, and so are the emailers that I'm getting here. So welcome the Premier at his convenience. Obviously, he's a busy man. I get it, but, 10 minutes for open line, I don't think it's too much to ask. No, nor do I. Okay. Thank you, Brian.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's go right to line number 5. And welcome to the program, PCMHA Grand Falls Windsor, for Grand Falls Windsor Buckens, Chris Tibbs. Also, Chris, if you don't mind, Municipal Community Affairs, the Registrar General, Community Engagement, Minister of Environment, Conservation and Climate Change, and the Minister responsible for the Multi-Materials Stewardship Board. That's a few. That's a mouthful, hey.
That's a mouthful, Brian. I appreciate it. Good morning to you and your listeners, my friend.
Good morning. Go right ahead.
I wanted to just follow up and just fill in some of the gaps here about a story that I guess has been brought to your attention and your listeners on your open line show about myself through Paul Healy, who had a daughter who went through quite the circumstances here in the province in the healthcare center system. Sir. I think he called it back in again Monday. I just wanted to clear up a couple of things. First and foremost, I'll offer it again to Mr. Healy. I am here as your MHA to guide you and through this system and help you and your daughter as best I can. That will be 24 hours a day. It will be always offered to you. I don't care what you think about me. It makes no difference. My job is to make sure that my constituents are taken care of. So my heart goes out to him as a dad, and I will continue to offer that to him no matter what. But I want to clear up a couple of things, Brian. His initial call was a Monday morning about 9:30, 6, 8, 10 weeks ago. I'm not sure how long ago it was. It was a Monday morning at 9:30. And when he called back in this Monday, both you sort of said, oh, well, he listened to Open Line Show and he heard it and he finally called you back. Brian, I'm not sure if you know. Do you know when he sent me his original email?
Oh, okay. You're asking me on the spot here now. I can go back into it, Chris. And
No.
Oh, you've got to tell me.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. My apologies. He sent me an email on a Saturday. This was Monday morning at 9:30, 48 hours later, when I'm on the way to St. John's to my office. Because when I heard it on the radio, I was listening to your Open Line Show, which I usually do.
Sure.
And when I thought...
Dave, Chris still there?
We all make mistakes.
Sorry. We lost you for a sec. Chris, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I said we all make mistakes.
Yep.
But when I left my office on Friday at 5 o'clock, I did not have any emails outstanding, and I couldn't understand how long ago this was.
Sure.
He sent it to me on a Saturday, Brian. This was 9:30 Monday morning. I don't think 48 hours over a weekend is extremely outstanding for an email at all.
Yeah, no, look.
And I don't think your listeners would either. And we went on about the program and talked about how politicians don't get back to people. A lot of us pride ourselves on our accessibility, and I just wanted to put that out there on the record, first of all. So it was 48 hours later, Brian. As soon as I got into my office at 10 o'clock or 10:30, whenever it would have been, I would have seen his email. He would have got a call immediately. Okay, so I wanted to put that out there right away. So I need to fill in these gaps because I think it's making your listeners lead to believe that I'm not doing my job, which I can tell you I am. The second thing on Monday morning he discussed was he talked about a veteran, I guess. I don't know if this man's a veteran or not, who I called a pathetic weakling. And I would like to say, Brian, that I don't use those words lightly, but we need to come up with some context here. And he wasn't asked what the context of that was. And I'm going to give you the context now.
Sure.
I was reached out to by a man, and I don't know if he was a veteran or not, but I'm pretty sure it's the same person that he's talking about because there's only one person I've used these words with since I've been an MHA or a minister. This person reached out to me personally to tell me that my gay son and the rest of the homosexuals within our community are the ones basically tearing apart the fabric of society. Now, Brian, I've stood in the House of Assembly many, many times to discuss our LGBTQ plus community and how young people are putting themselves 6 feet into the ground over and over again because they don't feel as though they have the support for the community. So to be honest with you, two of my best friends, Minister Lynn Paddock and Minister Lloyd Parrott, are veterans, and I help veterans as much as I can. I have a lot of respect for our veterans. But knowing who my son is and knowing how I feel about this, if you're going to come at me to get a rise and totally disregard our LGBT plus community, especially our young people, well, you're going to get an earful from me too. So I will continue to stand and express my views and protect the young people and the old people in our LGBT plus community throughout Newfoundland and Labrador and around this world. It's something that I've taken on many years ago when our son came out to us. I know the struggles he had. He had 4 men in a vehicle one time chase him into the woods using everybody's favorite F word, derogatory term, chased him into the woods a couple of years ago, Brian. And this is the stuff that our young people have to put up with. So if Paul Healy wants to defend the person that I called a pathetic weakling, my exact words were, if my 20-year-old son is what's offending you, then I think you're a pathetic weakling. If that's what's really, really imposing on you in your life, if that's what's threatening you right now, I believe you're a pathetic weakling and you need to probably go get some help. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, Brian, but if you're going to come to my doorstep with that, knowing who my son is, I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel as well.
Are there better words than the pejorative kind of language like that, Paul, Chris, such as I mean, to go down that hole. I mean, I know just the term itself. Some people might be taken aback by it. There might be another more diplomatic way. Although this isn't the most, obviously, given the frustration and the serious issues that Paul is concerned with. I have no doubt that a lot of this is driven by the care and love and concern for his daughter. But I mean, we got to check ourselves, right, and try to keep it civil. So listen, context is important. Communication is important. Your transparency, you calling in today to address all of this. I'm sure everyone appreciates that, including your constituents and Mr. Healy, despite whatever it may differ in conflict with what he may have said or he may disagree. At least we have the context and we have your side, and we can hear from the Minister of the MHA yourself. That's number one priority. I will ask, and I'm sure people are listening to this and wondering out loud, do you shut it off on the weekends? Like, do you check your email? Do you have staff to check an email on a weekend? Because it is a 24/7 job as an MHA, and let alone as a minister. I mean, things come up on weekends and that sort of thing. I suspect the email was sent on a Saturday because that's when it was happening for Mr. Healy. So he fired it off, and knowing how important this is to him, he probably felt slighted the fact that there was nothing until Monday. And again, I just say, in a sense, just trying to put myself in his shoes. Is there a way to monitor your email for important things or stuff that might be urgent on a weekend?
Well, first and foremost, Brian, I think this was left out as well. I've sent Mr. Healy several emails since. Okay. Again, telling him,
sure,
Paul, I am here for your daughter. Again, I don't care if you don't vote for me. You can call me the biggest POS in the world. I could care less. I am here to help you and your family navigate this system. He has not taken me up on it, Brian. So to sit there and, again, full sympathetic towards him and his daughter. I can't imagine as a dad what he's going through, and I feel his frustrations at the end of the day. He's taking it out on the wrong person. He truly is. I did nothing to his daughter but offer the help that's there.
Sure.
I'm not a doctor, Brian, so on a Saturday night or whatever, whenever he sent it, there's nothing I can do at that point anyway. Yes, we do check our emails on the weekends, in the evenings, but we also have lives outside of this as well. And I can tell you 10 things that I was doing for that Saturday evening or that Sunday, why I probably didn't check my email for that 36 or 48-hour period. I could have been out of the service area. Might have gone for one night to the cabinet guys. I can't remember where it was at that time. But make no mistake, Brian, we don't go days or weeks without checking our emails, by no means. I don't think, personally, a 36 or 48-hour turnaround from a minister of two departments that's more than happy to help wherever he can. I don't think that's unreasonable.
No, again, I only asked the question, and I'm with you. Look, my weekends are busier than my weekdays right now. There's no doubt about it, and I might not get around to email. It's different, I suppose, when you're elected official, and I know what you're saying. You're not a doctor. I don't know the content specifics of that particular email that he sent you on the Saturday. Maybe a quick flick, of got it. I'll do my best to address it when we get back. I'm busy. Maybe some kind of acknowledgement might have tempered some of what he had to, some of the anger that he had. I don't know. I'm just, from my own perspective, this is what I do. If I have no time to respond in any substance, then I'll at least send a note saying, look, I got it, and I'm looking at it, and I will get back to you. But that's just me, and I'm not suggesting that you should have done that or whatever. So look, we'll put that where it is, Chris. I appreciate all of the context and the background on that. Can I quickly ask you, and I put on your environment hat for a minute, the newfound sand people are expressing a lot of frustration with yourself. This is the glass recycling, probably our only game in the province right now, who is dying to start recycling glass for a lot of people, and a lot of people dying to have their glass recycled. I think they're even trucking away a ton of it from the St. Mary's plant, along with the sauce, and it's going to newfound sand, and they're taking it, they're crushing it, they're going to use it. But they've expressed a lot of frustration with the Department of Environment and MMSB not being able to get up and running. Are you familiar with the situation, and what's the holdup?
Yeah, so $35,000 was already given to Newfound Glass, I believe, from the MMSB, just to start, I guess, like a pilot project sort of thing, and support recycling. And if Newfound Glass would like to come in and present us with a business plan of how they can move forward with this, a comprehensive business plan, Brian, I'm willing to sit down with absolutely anybody. And if it makes sense, that's something that this government will continue to work with.
What do you have from them on the record? What submission, application, plan, anything?
From what I can remember, again, Brian, I'm just trying to think back about when we spoke to them last from the department. Yeah, I believe we asked them to come up with a comprehensive business plan that we can sit down and look at and work with them to see if there is a business plan there that can work for the province. I mean, it has to be feasible as well for the province itself. We're looking into recycling, reusing everything we can, and we're looking for new, innovative ways of doing it. So I would encourage them to continue to work with the province, sort of thing. But at the end of the day, we just can't hand out a check if somebody has an idea. We want to make sure that the taxpayer's dollar is spent in a very, very responsible manner. In order to do that, we need to make sure that there is a plan in place to do it.
Fair enough. I'll put it back in their court, ball in their court, as we've been talking to sports idioms this morning. I'll put it back to them and see where it goes from here. I know a lot of people. I'm sure you even got a load of glass around the house that it kills you to just throw in the garbage. So I think we're all in that boat.
And at the end of the day, it's an aggregate. Like glass, it breaks. I mean, it's sand at the end of the day. It's nothing toxic about it. But also, if there's a way of reusing it, we're open to all ideas. We want to make sure we can make that clear.
Yep. Chris Tibbs, the MHA, obviously for Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckins, PCMHA, and the Minister of Environment, and a ton of other things. Look, I appreciate all the openness, the transparency, the call, and the reaction to the other callers that have called and regarding yourself. Thanks for that, and I appreciate it. Very do.
Thanks, Brian. And if I just sum up two things here.
Sure.
Again, please. Let's have patience with our LGBT plus community, because I've seen it. I've seen them suffer. I've seen what my son went through his whole entire life. And if you think that it's not happening still, if you think, oh, okay, well, that was years ago and it's not happening, just a couple of years ago, Brian, he was chased into the woods by 4 men in a car and yelling and throwing stuff at him. So I'll tell you that right now. And the last thing I'll leave you with, Brian, is this. Mr. Paul Healy, if you are listening, sir, give me a call. I can help you navigate this system. You can come after me and you can batter me all you want, but I just want to help your daughter, sir, and anybody else in my constituency.
Grand, let's keep all of the language to a civil level too. If we can just any of that kind of stuff, it doesn't work
from a dad that went through all that, Brian. That was pretty civil, my friend. Yeah,
no, I understand. And from a dad who's going what he's going through, he may say he's trying to hold it back too. But it's cooler 100%. Heads. Yeah, cooler heads have to prevail. Thanks again, Chris. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Brian.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's go right to line number one. And Jerry Earle, president of the Newfoundland Labrador Public. Private and public. Is it public and private or private and public? I should know this by now. Public and private employees. There it is. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. You think I'd have that down to a science by now?
I have trouble sometimes, Brian.
Oh, look, I appreciate you for being available just for a few minutes here. I know, I believe you spoke to this maybe on our morning show, but not everybody gets to listen all the time during the day. And, these MRIs that are now being, looked at for private service in Alberta, and there's arguments here now that you could probably access this in the light of, these moving towards two-tier and all that kind of thing, and people who can afford it and people who can't. But there's also a push then, a run back on the actual doctors in the system. If you're out getting these done and a lot of referrals going to the doctors, that's putting extra pressure on it. And I heard you call this whole thing about the MRI thing in Alberta disgusting. Please, I welcome you to elaborate.
Brian, it's a very complex issue, and for the simplest thing first, there are these professionals that do all this diagnostic services, and we represent many of them here in Newfoundland and Labrador. There are only so many. We already have a shortage in our public system. So the first question, after we clinically set up, where are you going to find the resources to staff the private side of it? So you're just going to drain more people at the public system, make it less effective and efficient for those that rely on it. It doesn't improve our healthcare system at all. And what's happening is a reflection of governments and health authorities failing to properly resource our healthcare system. If we had sufficient human resources, these professionals and many others in our public system, we would not have waits. We would not have people frustrated, because I believe most people value our public healthcare system where you don't have to put your hand in your pocket and determine if you can pay for a service. You should not have to. We're already paying directly through our taxation system for public healthcare that should be accessible to everybody, irregardless of your level of income. Why should we set up a system now where somebody that can afford to pay is going to basically jump the line? And in many of these cases, Brian, when they go for these services, guess who's then actually reading the reports and everything? Because if they don't do that, it's back in our public healthcare system. So who's going to get prioritized then? So I think it's just a reflection of a failure by health authorities and governments to properly resource our healthcare system, and this will only make matters worse, and like you said, put a greater burden on our existing system.
Yeah, do you worry that governments are all licking their chops at this and going down this road? I mean, if they can see a way to offload, the lines at any realm of healthcare, they're probably going to jump at it. But again, it's a slippery slope, isn't it?
It's a very slippery slope, and I think it's most unfortunate people shirk the responsibility, whether it be government or health authority. We've seen, and we've been talking to some the slippery slope, and it's happened right here in Newfoundland, Labrador. There's areas where we've seen a shift towards some privatization. Again, it is government and health authorities that have to be held accountable. We as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians should be looking at those two entities and say, we expect you to deliver healthcare services to us in a timely manner and properly resourced. And there's all kinds of examples of why. I just had a young person reach out, and I'll give you one small example, but this repeats itself many, many times. A young person, a young woman actually, that put in for a position with the Newfoundland Labrador Health Services in one of these specialized positions, might say, which are already short. It took so long to get a response that she was actually moved at the province into a like job before they reached back to her to say, are you still available? That is happening repeatedly because these health professionals are in demand right across the country. So every province is recruiting. And unfortunately, this is right on the West Coast where we are down to now, I think, a single person in one of these positions. So again, it's the health authorities and government is not taking their responsibility serious. There would be no need for a shift towards, and I can understand people saying, I will do anything I can for my loved one, myself, or my child to get healthcare services. People should not be put in that situation, and there is no need for them to be in that situation if we properly address the resources that should be in our publicly accessible healthcare system.
I've tried to follow it as best I can. There are different pockets of it, but what can people in Newfoundland and Labrador right now pay for out of pocket instead of waiting in a line?
You can go in, for example, and pay, just give you one simple one. We've heard sometimes where, I'll just use Major's Path here in Metro Region, where they've had such a blood collection, for example. You can go in and pay, but you got to maybe pull $20 out of your pocket to pay to have blood drawn. Most people realize that is the only component of the procedure that's done that's still sent into our public healthcare system where there are shortages of people that do diagnosis around this. So they are just doing that component. You're paying for it, and you're still paying for your taxation in the public system to have the work done in that very simple procedure of drawing blood. They still, our members, public sector employees still have to do it in their system, and that's repetitive. There's a number of things, but just one example, there's a number of communities now where the shingles set up, you can go and actually pay out of your pocket, and some might say, well, maybe someday my insurance will pay for it. Well, it's like home insurance. The more people that rely on their insurance to pay for this procedure, guess what? Your insurance premiums will increase because the insurance companies do this for profit as well. They're not going to take a loss.
No, absolutely. Look, I appreciate you adding to this and giving us a quick call. I got a bunch of others that I want to squeeze in. So, look, I just wanted to get your chirp on that, you to weigh in on it. Was there anything else now before I let you go?
No, that's everything. I certainly hope that people don't buy into this concept that this is going to improve healthcare. I can assure you, from everything that I've read and seen, and if you talk to people about it, it will not improve our healthcare system. In the long run, it will actually make it worse.
Yeah, when you're self-referring, in some cases it may or may not be necessary, but you're going to will to pay out of your pocket because there's a peace of mind in it for you,
Well, read what they're saying in Alberta. You can self-refer. Yeah. But if you don't get a diagnosis, then you're going to be on hook to pay for it. Yeah. So, unfortunately, if you come back in a worst-case scenario that you get a positive diagnosis, they may reimburse you. But if you don't, you dish out $300 or $400. No, you will not. What kind of system are we getting into?
Well, that's the system. So, it's good to keep it out there. I appreciate your comments on it, and we need to keep that conversation going because it needs to be on the front burner to know what we're facing down the road and what options other provinces may be looking at, including our own, So, important
Absolutely.
Conversation.
Use a medical term. We got to put this under a microscope, take a good look, and I think the results will scare a lot of people.
Yeah. I appreciate your time as always, Jerry. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's go to Selena on line number 2. You're on the air.
Hey, how you doing, honey?
Good morning, Selena. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I just want to say first off that I've listened to the show all morning, and I agree with what everybody said about the health care, the government, the disability, the seniors. I'm disabled myself. We're all getting kind of, I think I can say, screwed over, I think. Okay. All right. I'll let that go. And it really relates to what I'm saying. I just got a couple of quick issues, and I'll let you go so you get to your last caller. I have to go to Corner Brook. I live down Southern Shore. I've had so many bad experiences in the other hospitals, the main ones in St. John's, that I can't go there. So I have to travel from here to Corner Brook to get the proper health care in the new hospital, which is ridiculous. And I don't even know what's going to happen when I get there. I've had so much disappointment in that. That's it for that. Now, let's go to the RNC and the RCMP. I have called and reported, made statements about drug dealers all over the road, down here, everywhere. Even my ex-husband, I won't say his name, but nobody wants to do anything about these little guys. They want to get the big fellas, and the other ones are wrecks. So the RNC and the RCMP need to crack down on these drugs, because I know I've made statements, and these people are still running it. So what's the problem? That's what I'm saying, because we're looking at all this, and we got kids on drugs, and there's the little people that are cutting it and killing them with fentanyl and overdosing them, and they're not looking at them. They want the big guys. Freak the little guys, right, that are getting dead, right? It's not fair and it ain't right, and they need to crack down. And that's pretty much all I got to say today, Brian.
Well, I appreciate it, Selena. I will say I've been...
back with a...
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, look, it is true that they want the big guys. They will hold out in some cases in investigations until they do get the guys who are running the show. But that obviously, you know...
Meanwhile, the young ones are dying.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it doesn't mean in any way, shape, or form we should be leaving anyone out of the equation. And anyone who's pushing, and, you know, I mean, clearly... You know, you don't get into the force to ignore crime. You get into it to solve it and to make things better. Again, it's like the vocation in healthcare. I've said, you know, you're not getting in to twiddle your thumbs and kill the clock. You're getting in it because you have a deep concern for what's going on, whether it's healthcare, you want to help other people, whether it's police, you want to solve problems and make people safer. So, you know, I don't begrudge it. It's a tough job to do. I know what you're saying. Resources are an issue, but the drug situation is out of control as well, as is the gun situation. So, you know, we're doing as much as I really do feel, you know, and it's easy to criticize, but, you know, until you're in those shoes, you want to be a cop for a day, you know, and on that beat. And running into some of these larger investigations in full tactical gear and you don't know what you're facing. I don't begrudge it at all. It's a tough job and I'm never going to go there. As far as having the resources to deal with it, that's another story altogether. Everybody's having, look at Toronto, the gun crime has gone off the rails. And, you know, and there's other issues in Toronto, obviously. But here, the numbers are undeniable. Gun crime is up. There was a time it would really be hard to get the police and the powers that be in the police, whether it's the superintendent of the RCMP or the chief of the RNC, to openly admit that they're struggling to keep up or having trouble with it or that there is an issue, because it seems to suggest that they can't keep up or aren't dealing with it, but we know they are. There are big busts all the time. There's work ongoing 24/7, not just when they hold a news conference at the RCMP headquarters. You know, Selena, everything you've said is true, but boy, oh boy, it's hard to keep up. Anyway, thanks for your call, and I appreciate you recognizing that I have one more to get to, and we will right now. Let's go to Marina on line 3. You're on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for your call. I have to tell you that I'm still giggling about vagarisms and the dark ages. Those are the words of the day. So thank you for that.
Welcome. I don't know what comes out sometimes, but thanks, I guess.
Brilliant, really. I wanted to kind of piggyback on Nancy's response. And I thought she did a really great job of sort of laying out this frustration people have. People have access to governance and inquiries. There's information lines, inquiry lines, emails, but what they're not getting is responses. And I think that's a really important point. And she really tried to lay out, what people should do or how they should navigate that whole process. One of the things that I wanted to bring up to you is from inside the government perspective. And I can, for myself, speak from inside and from outside. So there is, first of all, a legal concept. Don't create evidence when there isn't any. And that sort of means if you don't have an answer, best say nothing. And so a lot of times that is where, and honestly, people become so eroded inside their positions, fielding the same questions, giving the same responses. We don't do that. No, we don't. This is the wrong place. Call over here. Sending people all over the place. It creates quite a bit of frustration. And as it erodes sort of the people's confidence, And then also, I think generally governance is kind of a very old school PR sort of place where it's like, say nothing until they spin it. And the landscape changes so quickly, it's really hard to keep on top of that, right?
Oh, agreed.
We have, we're looking at healthcare, and I agree with everything everybody said. I'm a former healthcare professional myself. But when we have so many cries going out, there's no cohesion, there's no sort of coordination. When you start working with Newfoundland Health or with the Public Service Commission, you are recruited and hired by the Public Service Commission, which is supposed to be very independent. The actual employer who manages you once you start working is Shared Health or Newfoundland Health. That's a very different animal. And they are quite separate from one another. There's no sharing of information necessarily. And so we have a situation where the left hand doesn't really know what the right hand is doing, right?
Yeah.
And the real culprit, I think, here comes down to, really, I would say Shared Health, in the sense that no one really hears about that back end of it, right? And so this is why a lot of health professionals either get out or don't want to come. And I think we can talk all we want about, recruitment, but retention is another factor. And, I came from back home after being away for many, many years. And, I had canvassed, I was appointed to a position. I had canvassed many physicians that I work with. And, they had done stints in Newfoundland. So I'm getting information kind of from the other end. And, it was mixed feelings. Love the people, love the province, but boy, oh boy, what a hot mess, right? And be prepared for that. So, and I really was overconfident when I came, I will tell you. I said, it can't be that bad. Guess what? It is.
It can be.
Right?
Yeah.
And you made a comment, people don't go into healthcare because they don't care and they want to treat people poorly. I would absolutely agree with you. They're broken down and exhausted and not feeling appreciated. But I got out of healthcare for exactly the same reason, because I really did care. And I can tell you from my perspective, being an independent sort of person who investigates and writes about these things, it allows me a lot more freedom. I'm not shackled, because when you're employed from within the system, you risk a lot of things.
That's true.
Right? And so I find myself actually, it's been hard financially and adapting, but at the same time I say to myself, what a privilege you have. You can actually really help people navigate this thing, right, sometimes. And I think this is what you do while you do. And I really commend you for it. This is an amazing platform. I will tell you that the sense I'm getting, the pulse I'm getting, is that today's climate demands more transparency. I'm hearing people are crying out, like, where are you at? Where are we at with this thing? What's going on, right? And they really don't have. The questions are coming far faster than the answers are available. And one thing that I can tell you, a lot of the reason it's so slow, government is like a big vessel. It doesn't turn on a dime, right? It sort of inches forward, and then all of a sudden the landscapes change. There are very inconsistent performance metrics to know if what they're doing is working or not working, right?
True.
And sometimes people do performance metrics, but they're really kind of designed to be a validation of what they're currently doing versus an honest accounting, right? Okay.
Absolutely. Over a longer period, too.
Pardon me?
Just over a longer period, you need a larger, just like a poll, you need a larger group of people to get an accurate assessment of it. The same thing, you need a bit of time to be able to get those metrics and to be able to do a full, accurate assessment. You need a larger pool to draw from, so to speak.
Yeah, and people. I hear repeatedly people, and they're very correct in saying it. We reviewed this 10 years ago. The doctors were screaming about this 5 years ago. Yes, they were, but when the recommendations come down, they're far too hard to shove down people's throats. They're not going to tolerate it. So this is where we negotiate and we chisel a little bit. And the real core issues just keep rolling forward, and like any snowball, it just gets bigger, right? So when we say crisis, I say more we're in a collapse. Like we're really nearing that point. And when we have physicians that are either leaving the country or leaving the profession or leaving our province, they'll come and they'll make a ton of money doing it, but we won't keep them more than a year or two, rarely. And that's a sad fact, right? I mean...
Yeah, and somebody mentioned earlier, and I'm right at the top of the hour, Maureen, so I'm going to have to say thanks for the call.
Take over,
Yeah, somebody mentioned earlier, they talk about not enough funding for healthcare. I guess, however it was said, certainly there's more than enough funding. Just using it appropriately and the best way has been our issue over the years. So there is that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the call.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.
I appreciate you chiming in. Listen, anytime. Lines are open. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Take care. Thanks, everyone, for the calls and every email that I got as well. You know who you are. Thanks. Drive safely. Arrive alive. VOCM cares.